We about to open up a whole can of primatology discussion. So sit your candy ass down, because it's monkey time, bitch. Gorilla Radio. Turn that shit to a reasonable volume so as to be considerate of others.
Monkeys go directly to hell.
Welcome to episode 77?
76.
76.
We're never going to get it right.
We're never going to get it right.
Never going to get it
Folks,
right.
We have a very special episode in store for you today. We're warmed up. The juices are flowing.
So, welcome everyone to episode 76. I wanted to talk about the chimpanzee named Austin. So, as you all know, as you may have recalled from the beginning of... As you may recall from the beginning of last public episode, I got a tattoo of my name, Austin, in Yerkish on my forearm.
Is the language called Yerkish?
Yeah, if you're not familiar...
Because Turks are basically monkeys.
No, No, it's because Robert Yerkes, who was a eugenicist, so maybe the language didn't age well in its naming convention. But they named the language after Yerkes. It's the lexigram language that Kanzi and all the other bonobos at the Ape Initiative or related experiments use to communicate, quote-unquote communicate. We'll get into all that, you know.
Oh, we don't know. This is my first time. Tell me about it.
So let me just start with, you know, we were talking about, like, we discovered 2 episodes ago, I think, that Austin was on the lexigram, and we were like, oh shit, and then I was like, oh dude, I should get that tattooed. And so I decided I should probably do some preliminary research. I saw a bunch of names on the top of the lexigram, and I was like, okay, who's this? I see Sherman, Kanzi, Austin, that's cool. Who are all these other people? So I email the Ape Initiative and I say, hey, what's the idea? What's with Austin on the lexigram? It's right next to Kanzi as well. It's like literally one to the right of Kanzi. So is it important? Who's to say? They responded saying like, oh, that's such a fun question. Thank you for asking. Which sounds, hopefully was genuine and not them being annoyed, but, you know, who can say? They said, they made me aware that one of the first pairs of chimpanzees ever taught to use this language, not the very first chimpanzee they introduced it to, but, like, the first, like, real experimental trials with, like, teaching chimpanzees, or apes in general, to use this language. Those 2 chimpanzees were Sherman and Austin. So they sent me this article, and it was really cool, but it didn't have as much information about Austin the chimpanzee as I would have liked. So I investigate the sources, and I find out that there is a book about the Austin and Sherman chimpanzee experiments. So I rent that out from the library, the UNC library. But first, some really good quotes from the initial article they sent me, which I can pull it up to cite it, but, like, actually, yeah, while you guys are making, like, jerking off jokes or whatever, let me see. So this is Sue Savage Rumbaugh and her husband, and also someone named McDonald's, I don't know. The article is called Language Learning in 2 Species of Apes, Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews. It's from 1985. So a couple of good quotes from this are... Moreover, Kanzi's mother, Matata, was not able to do more than request the foods. The conclusion was inescapable that Kanzi had not learned these skills by observing his mother, nor by any intentional training on our part, which I thought was intriguing because I believe when we talked about Kanzi 2 episodes ago, the source you used made the assertion that Kanzi learned from his mother, but it would be more accurate to say that he just sort of observed his mother being rewarded for using the keyboard.
Monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey do.
He saw his mom getting rewarded for using the keyboard and just took an interest in it of his own. And that sort of reminds me of that research I mentioned a couple episodes back about how they tried introducing iPads to gorilla enclosures at the North Carolina Zoo, and they just had zero interest at all until they saw like humans taking an interest in the iPad.
What if we showed them porn?
Dude, I do not want to know what
Porn gorillas
like
too.
porn addicted gorillas would look like. Dude, a porn addicted chimpanzee? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
The kind of shit he'd be getting into?
That would have meant a whole new like schism of gooning.
They're gonna invent like gooning.
Do you think the chimps would be into cuck porn?
Maybe. Who can say?
Who could say?
They're gonna watch a gorilla fucking shit.
Never. I'm sorry. What did you just say? I didn't quite catch that. You can't do that. That's illegal.
We gotta
There's
cut that
laws
part
against
out.
that.
What do we gotta cut that part?
Okay, so
Well,
another...
I do have a question for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
And I need to think for a second to actually make the question coherent. Okay. What are like the observable processes and differences between a monkey or an ape teaching their offspring something versus them just picking something up that they see? Because like I know that like orangutans I think are a good example of like probably where we could see this, where like orangutan babies live with their moms for like years before they ever go off on their own, and they like slowly learn the process. But like, is there something specific that apes know how to do that they consider teaching rather than just like displaying or modeling?
Honestly, I think that's been like the main like problem that we've had with these discussions in the past, is because I'm pretty sure like current consensus, while there's never any like definite this is what is happening consensus, it seems to be more often that other apes besides us, don't really ever intentionally teach other apes things for the purpose of like passing on knowledge, but rather like they do something successfully in front of the other apes. We can't say like that's their intention because there's no way of, we don't really have any proof that they're
We have
like,
no idea what they're
that they're like
anything,
demonstrating something. But like when chimps see another chimp successfully solve a puzzle, they'll like try to recreate that basically.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, we could be getting into splitting hairs on whether that's teaching or not, but like it doesn't, I guess it just doesn't seem like they're doing it on purpose to spread knowledge.
Yeah, and like saying that Kanzi's mom taught him is like jumping the gun. Is like
which
is making too many assumptions.
Notably, the whole problem with all of
Yes.
these experiments the whole time was too many fucking people jumping the gun.
Yeah, making a lot of assumptions that had
The problem with Nim Chimpsky, Coco, Kanzi, every other, and Austin and Sherman. But some other quotes I wanted to go over were, quote, "Another interesting example occurred when Austin, the chimpanzee, was moved out of his laboratory for a short period of time while new housing was being constructed. Each night before going to bed, it was Kanzi's habit to pay Austin a short visit. Kanzi seemed to miss when Austin was gone, and after several nights solved the problem by requesting Austin TV, as in he pressed the Austin lexigram and pressed the TV lexigram. The caretakers interpreted this by playing a videotape of Austin, and Kanzi allegedly vocalized happily and then settled into his nest for the night, which is very cute.
It is very cute. Folks at home on your phones now, press Austin TV, and Austin will show up on your TV.
Text Austin TV.
Get live footage of him jacking off.
No.
We should.
I'm not talking about jacking off. We're talking about
OnlyFans.
chimps. I will say though, I did finally finish watching.
We finally finished?
No. I finally
finished
shut up. I finally finished watching Chimp Crazy, and the only mention they make of the monkeys jacking off comes in one scene where the crazy lady is filming him jerking off, and she's like, he gets so shy about it.
That's insane.
He should be.
Very
He's
mentally
too big a
unwell
sin.
person, but good news, update recently, I believe, I think 2-ish weeks ago, she was charged with several federal charges.
Yup,
So,
and she's been
Cool.
sentenced to hang by the neck to death.
Yeah, and by the way, I learned of a new chimpanzee mauling incident that I didn't know about when I finally finished watching it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we can do an episode about this at some
We
point,
should.
but
We
it was a
love our
chimp
chimpanzee
who
mauling
like attacked
incidents.
some lady's daughter, not too horrifically, but like bad enough that it looked
Yeah.
like a shark attack.
Gotcha. So just bad enough that it's worth talking about, but not too bad we'll feel bad about talking about it.
Yeah.
What is this hand motion?
I
We
will say
Yes,
the
he's
problem
gay.
is though they gotta. The problem
If you
is
brush your hair, if you brush your fucking hair behind your ear like a slut one more time, you have all of the physical and emotional mannerisms of a hyper online trans woman. Like a 4chan trans person.
Damn, that's
like
so
a
weird.
Nazi.
No, well,
Well,
Well. So
If you can't
oh yeah
join
no
us.
so the where I was going with this though is that when they finally were able to get away from the chimpanzee, she called the police and said, you need to come here and shoot this chimpanzee in the head. So they sent like a SWAT team like with an AR, and there was body cam footage because this was post Obama. There was body cam footage of this
Obama.
guy just sniping this chimp in the head, and they showed it on the show.
did his head explode?
Well, they cut to black before they showed that. but-
Austin, what is the chimp's name?
I don't remember is the problem. Look up like it must have been like chimp shot body cam
chimp
footage.
murder.
Oh yeah, I can always find that.
Yeah, do a headshot. Oh yeah, she was screaming, "Do a headshot,"
Oh my-
which is
we
crazy.
have
Like it's
to
in
do-
Call of Duty.
Well, it's the only way to stop him.
I mean, yeah, but like this is just straight up body cam footage of a chimp being shot in the head. It was in Oregon, by the way.
Only a war
Oh, it was
icon.
Buck the chimpanzee.
Buck
so.
Braghiotti. Fucking Italian chimp. They shot the Italian chimp!
They just shot a
It's
regular
anti-Italian
guy.
racism!
No, we don't have time to. We don't have time to actually watch this video right
I know,
now,
but I just want to see the chimp get shot.
Oh, I'm skipping through until they shoot him.
Oh,
yeah, took him out.
No.
Took him out.
Yeah, I know. He just crumpled right away. That's
Yeah.
sad.
That is kind of sad. but-
Yeah, I mean, it's fucked up. You got, again, obviously, don't keep chimps as pets, but a lot of people got the wrong idea from that show. So, okay, back on topic. So that was cute that Kanzi did that. Next quote I have here is, the present subject, Kanzi, was first exposed to the use of graphic symbols, gestures, and human speech at 6 months of age, when he was assigned to the Language Research Center with his mother, Matata. Between the ages of 6 months and 2.5 years, Kanzi was with his mother as she learned to use symbols to request different foods. Her training was similar to that which has been reported in detail elsewhere for Sherman and Austin, which we'll get into. During this training, Matata...
You should also get a Sherman tattoo, but put the Confederate flag above it.
No, Jesus. I hope that's
yeah,
not what he's
brother.
named after.
Well, no, wait, Sherman wasn't a Confederate. Sorry. Sherman marched on the Confederates.
Oh,
I got
right,
some-
okay.
I got-
Well,
I
then
got
get
some
a
stuff.
Union.
Yeah, get a union.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that just a flag?
Yeah, I guess that's just the normal flag, but... During this training, Matata was required to request foods in order to receive them. So this is where I first realized, is this, like, unethical?
Where's Hakuna?
Yeah, shut up. I think at this point I realized, like, they kind of didn't let them eat unless they did the symbols right. I don't think they starved them.
Is that true?
I don't
For
think
real?
they ever starved them at any point, but, like, they would just, like, not give... Generally, with positive reinforcement these days, you want to give them, like, a treat at the end of the session anyway, just for having done it. But to my
Everybody gets a trophy.
But to my
Thumbs down.
No.
they got the
This
chimps get
fucking
participation trophies
trophies. It's
They're
fucking
not
making
all
the
winners.
chimps weak. Our
They're
chimps
not
are
all
weak.
winners.
No, so
They
I think
need
what
to know
I think
the
what
world is filled with
happened
winners and losers. Okay, sorry.
before, like in the 80s, was they would like show the food, and then if they didn't do it right, they'd just be like, "Sorry," and then just like walk away with it and just not.
Sorry,
Which,
fuck
like,
you.
I don't know if you know this, but primates are very, very touchy when you show them food and then don't give it to them.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but one time when I first started out as like a zookeeper at that really sketchy rural zoo, I was feeding these monkeys some food, and I accidentally like dropped one of their little, I think it was like little sandwiches.
Yeah.
And I was like, oops, because he couldn't reach it, so I leaned down to grab it. and pick it up, and he freaked the fuck out, like full screeching, trying to maul me through the cage. Because
I would have left with that same. I would have walked away. I'd start taking a big old
Learn
bite.
some fucking manners.
no, that's how you get mauled.
I'd be walking around with a piece.
No, well, there was actually this guy. Everyone there was like real Southern, and at one point, they like pranked like one of the managers, and he was like, all right, and he pulled out a gun, and everyone was like, whoa, and he was like, I'm just playing with you, and it's like, okay.
That is the appropriate response to a good prank.
Yeah, right. But anyways,
they were in like iron bar cages. Is that what they were in?
well, it's like wire mesh. It's not
How
quite
safe
as
were you?
Pretty safe. I mean,
I
unless
would
I
have
got
fucked with them more than.
No, that unethical, completely unethical. Which, by the way, looking back on it, there's many reasons why this zoo wasn't exactly ethical. Now, granted, this was a rescue zoo, so it was better than the situations that these exotic pets were coming from. But all of their food came from what Walmart was going to throw out anyways. They had an agreement. So sometimes they would just be feeding a brown bear an entire cake from the Walmart bakery.
Ooh,
Okay, that's super
fun.
fucking fun.
And he got so big and fat that they changed the sign to say that he was a grizzly bear because he was just that big and they thought they could get away with it.
You know what? That's good marketing.
So next quote here is, quote, "The pioneering ape language research of E. Sue Savage Rumbaugh has received widespread attention everywhere from scientific journals to television documentaries to the front page of the New York Times," or as we like to call it here on the podcast, the New York Crimes.
Yeah.
In ape language, she tells the intriguing story of her work with two young male chimpanzees, Sherman and Austin, the first non-humans to communicate using symbolic language. Which I don't know why they said that, because they tried with other chimps before. Maybe they just thought they were the first successful ones, I guess. I don't know. Either way,
I don't know.
in concluding chapters, she contrasts their language learning skills with those of a different species, Kanzi, a young male pygmy chimpanzee, bonobo.
Mm-hmm. Also, by the way, I do have to say, of course, any chimpanzee can be the first chimpanzee to communicate using symbolic language because none of them can. So really,
you can just shift the goalpost and say like that one didn't count, this one does.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the only symbol they understand is violence.
Yeah, low key.
They listen. If they were in Plato's cave, they're not getting out, dude. They're not getting out.
Dude,
They can't tell the difference. They can't tell the difference between symbols and reality,
Can
dude.
chimps leave the
What do you mean
platonic
we're all
cave?
shadows on the cave wall?
Or maybe honestly,
Maybe
the
they like the
simulacra- Maybe the
shadows.
simulacra would have no effect on them. Maybe they would just go.
It's
straight-
possible,
straight up.
I think it's probably more likely that the simulacra would have no effect on them because
Their minds are too small.
sometimes they just don't care about like the enrichment that
Plato
give
would
them.
have said that they are men. Because they are
Please stay
featherless
tuned
bipeds.
for our next episode where we theorize on how long would a chimpanzee stay in Plato's cave for 3 hours.
So
You're gonna make me read the allegory to the cave for that?
Yup, we're gonna be quoting scripture here, folks.
So, the book traces Sherman and Austin's acquisition of symbols, starting with those that allowed them to perform such relatively simple tasks as operating a vending machine, to their eventual use of symbols as complex representational statements about future actions, a process never before documented in a non-human primate. Spoiler alert, by the end of this book, they're like, oh yeah, these guys couldn't really do it either, but this Kanzi guy, he's something. But with that being said, what better time than now to just jump right into the book?
He's opening up a King James Bible, everyone.
It kind of does look like it. It's one of those like completely blank books that's just like with the weird like fabric-y, like maybe there was a cover
There was
on
a
it at
dust
some
cover
point.
on it once.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
definitely a jacket on the book. How many hardcover books do you own?
Not
I
many.
don't know. It's but like
How many books do you own?
Sorry.
Hey,
This
why don't
book
you
is
walk-
from the library, to be clear.
Yeah, can you walk everybody through what your color-coded sticky notes mean again, Austin?
no, we're not going over this again. So it's oh god.
Okay, can you what book are we reading from first?
Yeah,
What
so
is the title of the book?
He's like, I have the book here.
I Ape Language, the one I was just talking about. But
True.
if
I
it wasn't
we
obvious,
were texting one another about you drinking off when you said that.
We were spending that whole time.
So this is the book Ape Language from Conditioned Response to Symbol by Savage Rumbaugh. I believe
They can't see it. You don't need to hold it up.
Well, yeah, true, but it's
for
still
my
good
sake.
practice, you know. So
For what?
I'm just gonna start reading quotes that I sticky noted, and I just like you all to keep in mind, book published in 1985. I'm going to read it verbatim.
Oh.
It is not my fault for what they wrote.
Why are you
racist
giving us the To Kill a Mockingbird speech about it?
We have
Okay,
found-
kids, there's going to be some words here that we do not use in class, okay?
We have found it more profitable to begin the study of language acquisition with the chimpanzee rather than the retarded individuals. No, don't laugh at that.
Yeah, laugh
you
at
know
that.
what they meant.
Are you telling me in 1985 they were like, that's the logic behind this whole fucking thing?
It would seem so. It would seem so. The disabled kids aren't learning quick enough.
No. You didn't let me finish the quote. So,
Okay.
because of the tremendous variability in the retarded population, rarely are two cases of retardation alike in the picture of language deficits which they present. Don't
You
laugh.
can't laugh.
No, Greg is laughing.
But you're laughing, and
I'm
you
not-
can
no,
mute
I'm
him
only-
laughing.
I'm
You
only-
can mute
I'm
his laugh,
only
but you
laughing.
can't mute yourself laughing.
Okay.
You gotta take it from the top. It's insensitive now. You were
Oh yeah,
being
you can
insensitive.
just mute me.
Look, we don't use this kind of language anymore. It's not even clear what they're referring to
Yes,
specifically.
it so totally is.
For this reason, previous research projects investigating language acquisition processes in the population have tended to be case-specific. Consequently, no general model of language acquisition in retarded individuals has yet emerged. On the other hand, our chimpanzee subjects present similar sets of deficiencies and competencies with regard to communicative skills.
You know what's fucking crazy to me? That you have.
It's
look,
just not true!
You've got the whole book there. You chose to read this fucking paragraph.
I feel like it's important to clarify the
It's
context of what these fucking people are doing.
Yeah, because they thought that chimpanzees and they aren't even being specific. Are they talking about Down syndrome? Are they talking about autistic people? What are they talking about?
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, I can't say what they said, but I guess I
can.
can. Let me laugh.
You just say
You have to be reading directly from the book in a quote form.
because they say that the studying chimpanzees is more effective because of the tremendous variability in the population. If you don't define it, of course there's a variability in the
Because that's
population.
not-
You're making the population up. You're inventing it. It's
Yeah.
fake.
Yeah,
If
like
you were
they're umbrellaing an entire range of different things that
There
could
was
cause.
there was a version of you in like 1985, like writing this down, going, "Well, I need the funding. How else the fuck am I gonna get it?" I'm gonna have to say,
You know what, that is
this one,
true.
honestly.
That is true. I will say, generally, all academic research of this kind is like books like these are basically just like advertisements for please give me some more money so that I can continue doing this. So they find ways to like make it seem. We're not talking about that yet.
Oh, are we gonna get to something cool?
Yeah.
Can you talk about it now?
Yeah, next quote here is first of all there's pictures introducing Sherman and
He's
Austin
holding it up,
figures.
everybody.
Figures 3.1 through 3.3.
They're very cute.
They're very cute. They're little babies.
They're
Not
best buds.
Not
They're
babies.
Very,
They're like maybe
photogenically chimps.
a handful of years old. But here's a picture of them hugging each other. Obviously, they put that in there because it's cute and they want to sell copies or whatever. This quote is, "A large number of personality differences were evident between Sherman and Austin in 1975, and these characteristics have, like their size difference, remained exceptionally stable through adolescence." So they're 10 years old about.
Mm-hmm.
Sherman has always been the dominant chimp of the pair because of his size and also his rough and tumble, blustery personality.
So he's the Greg of the pair. here.
Right. Wherever the social action is, Sherman is in the middle of it. It's impossible not to pay attention to him nearly all of the time because he's always doing something and doing it very fast. Austin, by contrast, is demure and laid back. He must often be coaxed into group activities, and care must be taken to ensure that he is not so upstaged by Sherman that he simply refuses to participate.
Interesting.
Much to learn here.
Danvers,
and then,
the researcher, calling us special.
I think so, yeah. I think that's my role in this.
Your average primatologist would do the T4 program without blinking.
what is the T4 program?
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
for us,
I actually
Fred?
don't know what that is.
The thing they did in Nazi Germany before the concentration camps.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
You ever
that's
wonder
just
why
sort of
there's
the...
not a lot of.
I wouldn't say that's a...
people
Here's the thing. I wouldn't say that's a specific unique trait of primatologists or even
Okay.
anthropologists in
Yeah,
general.
whatever.
That's just everything.
Scientists love to be evil.
Scientists have been evil for the entirety of human history because they've been doing science under capitalism or feudalism or Nazism or whatever.
It's also intrinsic to science. Doing science makes you evil.
Yeah, the
That's
base
true.
of the superstructure and whatnot. So
It's kind of annoying that all the easy shit's been figured out already.
yeah. So next it gets into showing some of the things that exemplify the
Is
chimp's
this
personalities.
the thing that Chantron laughed at?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's Sherman using a screwdriver to remove bark from the guide track so the door can be closed.
He's so helpful.
Sherman helping put away food in a refrigerator. Austin
helpful.
helping to clean a clogged drain. So basically, they were putting these chimps to work. Like, they were, like, making them clean up after themselves and stuff. Which is funny because in Chimp Crazy, the lady also... Like, I guess she was too lazy or too scared to go in there and clean the cage herself. So she would, like, pass a wad of napkins to the chimp she was smuggling in her basement and, like, have him wipe the poop off of the wall.
Oh my god.
There's, like, a 2-minute long scene
He was
of her...
doing that?
Yeah, like, she was like, wipe? No, down there. You have to wipe there. And, like, on the other side of the glass, he's just like... like, it's really ridiculous stuff. And then this... Figure 3.7 is Austin wearing a wig and admiring himself in the mirror.
Show Greg.
Let's see it.
It's very funny. It's like a Jerry curl wig. It's but it's just. I think.
Why were they giving these chimpanzees wigs?
They're having fun. They're goofing off. When Austin got
Austin,
this
have
part
you
in the
ever
book,
worn a wig and looked at
he-
yourself in the mirror?
No.
Why'd you look at Chandran for, like, approval of that?
No. Well, what were you saying, Chandran?
When Austin got to this part in the book, Austin texted us. He's like, "Fuck, dude, this chimp is just like me."
Well, there's other things.
Was he confused about his gender identity?
Who's to say? Austin helps put kitchen utensils away. Sherman climbing a tree. Austin repairing a broken lock. I don't believe that he did that successfully for 1 minute. Here's the lexigram. It has way less than the ones we know. So you can see that this is like an early draft of Yerkish. But you can see...
the symbol for...
You can see... where is it, actually? I don't know. Oh, there it is. There's Austin.
Yeah.
Kanzi's is notably blank because Kanzi is not a part of this yet. I'm not even sure if he's born at this point. So anyways, here's just a couple of, like, transcripts of them trying to get the chimps to talk. This is the researcher. Austin says, "Give Austin refrigerator chase, okay."
So true.
It's so true. It's mostly just... They mostly just used it, like, to ask for food and to ask to be played with, like, tickled or chased in specific locations.
Mm-hmm. Tickle me under my armpit.
Do you chase the chimps around?
Well, you don't... I mean, they do like to play chase, and that's something you can do to
How
have
does
fun.
chase end?
Quickly.
Well, modern chase, protected by a wall between you and the chimp,
Okay.
would be just like, you know, like on the other side, you know, you like run to one side of the room, they follow you, you run to the other side until one of you gets tired. and
Oh,
then
the
it's like,
chimp is chasing you.
Yeah.
It's not chase like you playing tag with the chimp. You're chasing the chimp.
No,
Yeah,
no.
you know,
the
another
chimp-
thing about
the chimp
that-
refuses to leave us.
Another
down.
thing about that
Keep
sketchy zoo is they had a tiger there, and he used to like to like try to pounce on you from behind the glass, and you could like play chase with him by running back and forth, but he would like chase you and like actually try to get you through the glass.
Yeah. Try and eat your ass.
How thick was the glass?
Prey instinct.
Thick enough, hopefully. I didn't die. Anyways, there's a little thing here. It's a table about where when they're using lexicograms. Okay, so I'll just read this. In administering this test, the teacher placed 16 items which Sherman and Austin had learned the name of on the table in front of them. She then asked them to hand the items one at a time using either spoken English or lexicograms. So basically what happened is she would ask for something with a lexigram, and they got it right every time. She would ask for something using like a spoken English word, and they would very rarely get it correct. There's probably something there about like they can't really comprehend auditory spoken language like at all, basically.
Well, I don't know if there's any answers in this book or in your research. Do chimps just have like bigger parts of their brain that deal with like visual information processing than they do like auditory?
Well,
processing
there are
information?
things. I'm not sure specifically about the parts of the brain that handle like auditory processing versus visual processing, but I do know that like chimpanzees do have like way better short-term visual memory than us, or maybe just short-term memory in general, because, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen that video of that chimp where it's like the board flashes like numbers in order, and then it shows it for like a couple seconds, then it goes blank, and then the chimp just like perfectly recreates the sequence, like not even
like the matching squares game that
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
played before on like your phone. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
There's some footage from a really grainy VHS, yeah, like CCTV almost, from 1976, where the teacher shows Sherman an object, and Sherman reaches to the board to light a symbol. I noted this because it says, Sherman immediately looked toward the teacher with a pout face to determine if he has selected the correct symbol. So they clearly noticed early on that the chimps were just like looking for, you know, reinforcement from the teacher rather than like learning, quote
Yeah.
unquote. There's also the teacher, the little photos of the TV footage continue. This one's kind of scary. The teacher points to an object to show Sherman what he was supposed to label, and then to the symbol he should have selected. The teacher puts the object down, which clearly signals to Sherman that the trial has ended and that he has not received food. He registers considerable emotional distress, and the pictures of him screaming at the researcher. So it's like
He's a little
Alright.
baby, luckily. So
yeah,
like,
he's just
not-
a little baby, but like it makes you feel kind of bad for him, you know. This is like doing like a book club. It's just fun. We should do this more often.
Yeah.
Let's see here. This one says, if we attempted to test her comprehension of the food which she had spontaneously requested by getting her the wrong food, she seemed perfectly happy with the bananas. Sorry, I skipped a sentence. So they basically tested the chimpanzee to see if they noticed if they gave them the wrong fruit. So like if the chimpanzee requested an orange, they would bring the chimp a banana. And they found that the chimp did not give a fuck because he got a banana anyway. So like they're very honest in this book about things not working, which is like what confused me because I was reading through this and it was like they're clearly aware that like these chimps are just like in it for the food, not really like fully comprehending, and they seem to be acknowledging these things as failures. So what's the point? The point is at the end of the book, which we'll get to. But first, there's a couple other points I wanted to go over that I marked off here. For example, this says, we were still encountering some distinct training difficulties. For one, the chimpanzees were not learning symbols for things that they had little or no interest in requesting. Mm-hmm. They always wanted to be tickled, they always wanted to go out, and thus these symbols could and would be employed repeatedly.
They're just like we.
However, the chimpanzees did not want to play with the same objects over and over, and consequently, requests for particular objects were not readily elicited or easily recalled. So essentially, they're saying again, like, they're only doing these things if they know that it comes with a reward they like. Mm-hmm. It's maybe not fully comprehending. Or, you know, they can try to speculate that they're comprehending it, they just don't care, you know? Let's see here. This quote starts out, could they do this? The answer is ambiguous. The chimpanzees began by selecting the correct symbol for each food, which we held up. After having lit the symbol, they then reached for the food with a clear expectancy that it would be given to them. When they were praised but given another food, they often appeared surprised and distracted. They continued to gesture toward the named food even after consuming their reward. When that food was put away, they seemed to assume that they had used the incorrect symbol to request it. They would often light another symbol even before the next trial and look directly at the food which had been presented on the previous trial. So basically, what this one is saying is that, they tried giving them a more neutral reward, like a more consistent reward for getting correct answers. But when they found out that, if they identify a banana correctly and they don't get a banana as a reward, they aren't interested in doing it anymore. So again, this all lines up with the anecdote I like to bring up all the time of, they used to put Kanzi on Zoom calls and try to ask him questions or give him little tests or whatever. And the only thing he would do is just sit there and press the button for grapes over and over, which just like me for real, frankly.
That is one of the things that the lady at the Ape Initiative that we were talking to said. Do you want to meet Kanzi? He's not very interesting. He's just gonna ask for grapes.
She didn't say that she wasn't interesting, but she did say that he wouldn't be a good interview subject. Sort of trying to dance around the topic, and I was like, well, no, I get it. I just think it would be funny if we asked him like a really deathly serious question, and he just responded with grape.
Yeah.
Great.
But,
Kanzi, how can we fight the rising tide of fascism?
Thank God we didn't meet Kanzi, because what if we were to Kanzi what J.D. Vance was to the Pope?
Oh my God. Imagine
what
if
if we met him and then he fucking died? The next day.
That would not a good look, Chief.
It would be incredibly funny for us.
It's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, honestly.
That is something that would happen on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
It's something that would happen only to us.
Okay, this next one I marked off says, once Sherman and Austin had learned to use symbols in different ways described in Chapter 6, they did not spontaneously begin to communicate with one another. Sherman, seeing Austin with an orange in hand, did not, for example, stroll over to Austin and use the keyboard to say, give orange, while extending his hand. On the contrary, if he wanted Austin's orange, he walked over and he took it. If Austin wanted to keep his orange, Austin did not say, no, my orange. He ran away as fast as he could, which was generally fast enough to keep the orange. So I like these little lore drops where they're Austin was faster than Sherman. He couldn't get his orange.
He's just like you. He's a wily little dude. He's good at scampering.
I could have sworn I marked this off somewhere, but I just need to point out, if I didn't mark it off, that the rewards they were using, this is the 70s and 80s, right? They were not just fruits and juice, sugar-free juice we'll use today. What they were using was Coca-Cola, M&M's, chips, and bananas and oranges and stuff like that. They were giving these chips Diet Coke.
Just hitting the vending machine for them.
Literally.
We gotta get more shit for Austin and Sherman.
Right.
What did the vending machine the guy put in this week?
Yeah. Let's see here.
Ooh, Twix.
Oh, yeah. So they also did an experiment that got increasingly convoluted, where in order to get fed, basically, they had the chimpanzees communicate in order to bring the food to each other. The researcher would say, all right, give this orange drink to Austin. And he would have to give it to Austin to get his own reward, basically. It was a back and forth like this. They say about this, if after a brief period the uninformed chimp and they weren't in the same room, so they didn't know what food was there, sort of. It's a long story, but basically the uninformed chimpanzee requested the correct food on 4 of 26 trials, 2 of which were orange drink, which we noted earlier could be communicated by high-pitched vocalizations. Ooh. The chimpanzees became so reluctant to use the keyboard under these conditions that we were forced to terminate this control task after 30 trials. So basically,
failure.
Total complete failure. They just did not care at all.
Perfect.
This is the one that's more in line with what I was talking about. Bout 1, trial by trial account. 1, Sherman requests pudding. There is no pudding on the food tray. Austin extends his hand toward the food tray, but hesitates, holding his hand just above the peaches, as though uncertain, and looks at Sherman. Sherman quickly points to the peaches. Austin then gives the peaches to Sherman and to himself. So
Good
that's
job, guys.
another failure, though, because he requested pudding, and then he was like, "Are you sure?" And then he points. Then he foregoes using the keyboard and just points at the peaches.
Yeah.
And then they just eat the peaches.
So like, hey, look, the chimp is communicating. The chimp is using its body to give you a message. Why can't you research that?
Yeah.
Why aren't you researching their ability to point at things?
Honestly, because like the thing is, like chimps don't really point at things in the wild. They pick that up from humans. They realize because like one of the things that human researchers do very often is they like point at things to try and emphasize it for the chimp, and they will pick up on that and like start using it themselves.
Yeah.
But the fact that they just decide to forego all this keyboard nonsense and just like point at it or just like make a high-pitched squeal that they've come to associate with particular food.
Yeah, like they said the orange juice,
drink,
the orange drink. What's orange drink?
I bet it's like Fanta or something.
Yes, it's Fanta. It's like an orange Kool-Aid. But yeah, the high-pitched shrieking that we've come to associate with the orange drink.
Oh yeah, like this one. Sherman requests Coke, and Austin observes his request. However, Austin is still trying to get the last bit of his orange loose from the peel, and he does not reach towards the Coke. Instead of pointing and then looking directly at Austin, as Sherman did on Trials 2 and 4, Sherman looks at Austin first and then points to the Coke while continuing to look at Austin. In this case, since Austin was not looking away during the request, Sherman apparently did not presume he needed to point. Which is, I don't know, again, it's just very funny that they're giving these chimps Coke.
Yeah. Ooh, we should give
You think they're
Coke.
giving it to them in a can?
I don't know.
I think they're giving it to him in a little bag.
I think probably a little baggy.
Yeah.
Did they get a rolled up dollar bill?
This one wasn't necessarily...
Teaching them finger dexterity.
They have a chapter called Video Representations of Reality, which is like very... a bit much for this, I think. But one of the subheadings is self-recognition via a TV image. And this is just a picture of Austin making a funny face by curling his lower lip underneath his chin, a feat only chimpanzees can accomplish, while observing the resulting change in his visage on the television screen, which is showing him his live image. So they set up like CCTV cameras with a camera or a TV to monitor it and just had them like look at themselves, which...
How is this different from a mirror?
It's not really.
Okay.
like
are the angles
right?
different? Is it like replay?
That's the thing. Like maybe they were still in the midst of the debate of like, can animals recognize themselves in a mirror? Which they can. Come on, don't be stupid. They know. Sometimes dogs are stupid and they get tricked, but like most animals know. It actually reminds me of you know Mark Rober or whatever that guy's name is, the guy that's
on YouTube,
the YouTuber who like used to be a NASA guy. He recently made a YouTube short called "How to Lure Any Gorilla at the Zoo," and he's talking about how like he can never get a good shot of the primates at the zoo, and so he designed this device, which is essentially just a mirror with his camera hidden in it.
Yeah.
And that's how he.
Oh, I did see this video. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he also like shows them the front-facing camera, which. That's something I've mentioned before, I'm pretty sure, where, like, chimps, apes, monkeys in general, love looking at themselves in the front-facing cameras on, like, iPhones. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason why, you know, some zoos had to institute the no cell phone policy, because the gorillas were, like, so obsessed with looking at themselves on the phone screen that they just...
became addicted.
They became addicted and stopped caring about their friends and stuff.
Life is beautiful.
Okay, so Chapter 16, Ape Language Research Beyond NIM. Subheading, What Has Been Learned?
Not much, I don't think.
Not shit. Monkeys like Coca-Cola.
The crux of the question is, when animals use symbols in ways similar to humans' use of words, do they know and mean what they are saying?
Does he know?
For animals to know and to mean what they are saying, quote-unquote, the process of representation must be extant and operating. As documented here, Sherman and Austin gave strong behavioral evidence for the conclusion that, at a minimum, a significant portion of their symbols came to represent items not necessarily present, which is weird because they spend the whole time talking about, like, how much of a failure these experiments were, and they were like, well, it does show that they know that symbols can mean things that aren't in front of them, which is like, I guess.
Do they though, or do they just think that this? If I point to this board, it gives me food? Like, cause really, like no, actually,
like,
none of the research proves that at all. The research proves the opposite. Actually,
I mean, we've been skimming, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's like some intricacies where I don't recall because I read this like 2 weeks ago, but like there's some points where there's sort of like.
Getting those connections.
Interesting that they
Why
knew
didn't
to
we
press
fucking
that
talk about this 2 weeks ago?
because we tried and
we
just
kept
never,
trying, but our episodes
never
kept
got
running
it.
long.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it during the voicemail episode.
No, we were busy.
This subheading is called "The Ape Language Controversy in Retrospect."
Oh, in retrospect, it's 1985.
In the early years of the efforts to investigate questions pertaining to apes and language, the wrong question was at the fore, in the press and in the public's thinking, if not also in the perspectives of many scientists. The question was, in essence, do the apes have full language competence as we know it in humans, or don't they? That could not be answered then, now, or ever. There is no concurrence, nor is there one likely in the offing as to what the minima are for it to be said that language exists. That's such a long-winded way of saying that. But basically they go like, what are the critical attributes of vocabulary, of syntax? How much must there be of them for it to be concluded that there's a language? This is like an actual, like they have like a brief section where they're like, what really constitutes language anyway? Like what's the bare minimum to be considered speech and language? Which is why it's so weird that they still spent acknowledging this, still spending the rest of their careers with Kanzi, like letting him get fat as shit just to like make it seem like this ape understood English. Because, like, at some point, sorry to Sue Savage Rumbaugh, but at some point, I'm pretty sure she started insisting that he could, like, mimic human English words, right? Do you remember us talking about this?
I do not remember this at all.
Maybe it was, like, someone else involved in it, but, like, at some point, they were like, this ape is so unique and genius that, like, he can, like, speak English and understand what we're saying. Whereas, like, in this book, they have a much more realistic and sober look at the whole thing, because they're like, wow, this all kind of sucked. And I think the problem ended up being that because at the very end of this book, they introduced Kanzi, where they're like, all of this changed with Kanzi. He's actually really good at this. He's like an ape prodigy. And they have like a photo of him doing like the Napoleon pose.
He is.
And they are, putting all these graphs at the very end of the book, like, this is how much better Kanzi is at all of this than every other chimp we've tried. Maybe it's because pygmy chimpanzees are more competent at it than any other ape species. And so basically they end it by being like, this might have been a failure, and we might have been...
wasting all of our time and money.
Wasting all of our time on these questions
all that DARPA money.
that we fully admit is not a good scientific question to be asked about apes or language, but Kanzi's different though.
But it's fun. Well, I think... Is that 2 Baby Yodas on your fucking shirt?
No, it's 4.
That's crazy.
My mom got it for me for Christmas a couple years ago. That's my nighttime shirt.
We love Grogu.
We love Grogu, don't we, folks?
And I think, right before we end this episode, and I think we should talk about this more. Obviously, I mean, this could be a 2-parter.
Yeah, there's also a whole other section of the book where they're comparing the apes' results to like autistic children, and it's very weird. They keep doing that.
We should definitely read that out loud.
Yeah, the entire.
But, I think
here's like they got Velveeta, Doritos, and M&Ms for these chimps here.
These are some of the actual food label plaques used in the study.
They were teaching these chimps brand recognition.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the full list. Oh my god. Okay. Peter Pan peanut butter, Welch's grape jelly, Velveeta cheese, M&Ms, Minute Maid lemonade, Sara Lee pound cake, Doritos, Jello pudding, SMA milk, Roman meal bread, Kool-Aid strawberry drink.
It was Kool-Aid, I bet.
Libby's peaches, Coca-Cola, Thank You cherries, and I think that's it. They also had vitamins for some reason. Why'd they have vitamins?
I don't know.
Oh, vitamins are tasty. Yeah, Flintstone gummies.
They had sweet
Flintstone
potatoes
gummies.
too.
Them shits were not gummies when I was a kid. They're like crunchy candies.
You could get them both.
Like a Tom.
You can get all kinds of things.
Oh yeah, it was I think this was a kid with Down syndrome that they had do these.
The control group.
Yeah. Oh, so whoever had this book before me was annotating it and like drew a big arrow to the words "severely retarded individuals are responders rather than initiators." I don't know what
they were researching.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's a good place, I think, maybe to call it.
Yeah, probably. It's very
before we
humiliating
go-
to make these kids do the chimpanzee language studies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is.
But before we go, I
Yeah.
do have a couple of, final clarifying questions that are for you, Austin.
Yeah.
So when was the last time that you jacked off?
What? Oh, can we wrap up the episode for real?
No, we're not done. How often do you jack off?
I don't have a schedule for these
Is it
things.
not every day?
No.
I don't
Kendrick, it's
understand.
every day,
It's
right?
every day.
Every day.
Sometimes I skip a day because I'm like, trying to.
I skipped yesterday.
Yeah, I think I skipped yesterday as well.
If I think odds are good that I don't need to jack off that day, then I'm not going to jack off.
I don't need to do anything, all right?
what I'm saying is that that kind of like feeling of zen you get afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You need more of that in your life, Austin.
I think you need to start taking bubble baths and like going on walks. When was the last time you went on a walk? Like not walking across campus. When was the last time you just went outside
Walked
and
for the
walked?
sake of it.
The only time me or anyone in my family has ever gone on a walk is when they've been in the middle of a severe mental breakdown, I think.
Fun. I went on a walk today. I walked 2.5 miles. I walked across it's beautiful outside, and I walked into the next town, and I got a chocolate milk from the dairy
Sounds
farm.
nice.
And then I walked back across town. It was beautiful. It's 70 degrees.
This is the nice part about living like in New England. You can just kind of.
It's nice now.
Yeah.
It's
Did
just
you, did you have any actual questions about the chimpanzee research?
Yeah, dude. Do they ever actually? You know how sometimes you get intrusive thoughts. Do they ever intrude on your jack off thoughts?
Oh, have you ever thought about a chimpanzee when you're jerking off? How to stop?
So that was episode 76, everyone. Please join our Patreon.
True.
So thank you all for listening to episode 76. Hopefully you'll hear all of this and think all of that's good. Everything that they said in this episode was good, and I want to give these people money for it.
Yeah.
So head on over
Please
to...
join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Gorilla Radio Show.
or gorillaradio.show on your internet browser.
Or that. We have a
forgot
website.
we had that,
I don't know
yeah.
what
Yeah,
we're doing.
I'm always forgetting we have a website.
Yeah, we paid money
Check
for that.
check us out on our other social media. You can see us on Instagram, where every 6 months I decide I'm going to post every day for a while. Or you can check us out on Twitter at gorilla__radio.
We
The
gotta
more money
do
you
something
give
about
us,
that.
the more
You are the
money
Twitter guy.
give
You
us.
gotta fix that.
Yeah, fix it. The more money you give us, the nicer quality stroker we can buy for Austin. Okay.
It's gonna be a nice one too. If you
We're
want
gonna
to
buy him a
understand
stroker.
why Greg's talking about strokers right now, you should join the Patreon because you can check
That,
You're
out
gonna
I'm
see
putting,
that.
I'm putting all of that in the blooper
You
reel.
can
so
check out-
you're gonna have to pay money to hear that.
Yup. Take care.
Have a wonderful week.
I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.